BPO is the one that we see as the largest growth, business process outsourcing in the services business. A couple of threads through that one, with horizontal and vertical BPO. Horizontal ones are typically HR and payroll outsourcing, finance and accounting, some elements of logistics, and an element of customer contact centre work. We're still seeing those horizontal BPOs grow quite well. I think I said last year that I thought RPO, recruitment process outsourcing, was strong. I'm still seeing that as a fairly robust activity, maybe not as much as it could be given the recruitment marketplace is cold in general. In the vertical area, the financial services, particularly in the insurance sector, we're still seeing a growth in there. So, open and closed book. The processing of that is still being outsourced, so there are still large contracts going into India on insurance. But even that, see the market's coming off. So, it's not looking wonderful, is it? Shifting product seems to be still working okay. People having enough to do their own thing with it, not looking for services and consulting as much as they were in the past. I'm going to pick 3 themes that I think might define some of the shape of 2009 for us. I did have 3 things this morning, and I had 3 things up until about lunchtime when I saw the Satyam news, so I'm going to pick 4 things. Corporate governance. One major accounting scandal usually manages to change things for more than the companies involved. If you think of Enron, WorldCom, Tyco, Parmalat, or Parmasplat as I've heard it called. Back in the UK, Polytech, if anyone remembers Polytech going under in the retail business. Each of those has tended to generate some government inquiries and a change to the statutory accounting framework and a change to the regulation advice around. The accounting system is quite intertwined globally, so I see a large scandal happening in India that's likely to have a backwash effect into other economies. So we'll have more focus on corporate governance standards. There will be some increased legislation coming out. It might not be this year, it may take another year to 18 months, maybe even 2 years to flush through, but we will have increased sets of rules coming through. Adoption of IFRS based reporting, the US market will drive some of them early, but I reckon it's going to be more than just the US and Indian markets. We'll see some accountancy and governance rule changes around. That may, in some people's minds, result in lots of new systems works. I don't think it will. Do you think when Sarbanes-Oxley was brought in, there was a great hue and cry saying this means people are going to buy lots more new financial systems and workflow systems to make sure they can stay out of jail. People bought word processors instead, so they could just write down in Word what the rules were and write down a series of checklists which people could tick with a pen to show that the procedures were documented and followed. There was a lot more simple technology used to implement the standards rather than massive big corporate ERP with complex workflow systems. Bigger guys did that, but the whole host of new spending that people expected to happen just didn't happen. So I think there'll be some incremental spending around the edge there, but a lot of management attention focused on staying out of jail. The year of the cloud. Cloud is a very, very nebulous term, and I was sort of hauled over the coals by someone even yesterday for not properly defining it. I still won't define it. People who used to write blogs about software as a service last year now write blogs about cloud. Most of them write exactly the same type of stuff they were writing a year ago. They just find it's more fashionable to call it cloud than software as a service. HP call it everything as a service rather than cloud. You have private clouds and public clouds. Private clouds are what was known as data centers. Public clouds, we've had those for a while. So if you think of things like the Amazon Elastic Computing Cloud, that's been there for a while. You've been able to run Amazon-based services for a long time. There are now service levels against that there weren't before. So one of the adoption barriers for software as a service solutions before was the lack of service levels. You can now get service levels from many cloud providers, Amazon included. Google's a bit behind in that so far, in my book. But where I'm seeing them coming most into play is the younger startups around, say, Enterprise 2.0 or Web 2.0 in the Valley. Virtually none of them buy servers anymore. Might have one in the office as a file server somewhere, but even then that's touch and go. But out there in October, most of them just sort of a PC, they provision something in the cloud, want a bigger one, I'll provision one with 20 cores and 8 gig of RAM, yeah, no problems. They pay by what they use. It suits the funding model of a startup really quite well to rent infrastructure by the drink. Some companies have affected their licensing models in that one, so some of the virtualization companies, you can pay per day or per hour use of software. Some of the larger companies, particularly Oracle, I have to say, hasn't yet stepped up and offered variability on pricing. You can transfer your licenses from on-premise to the cloud, but you can't have variability of pricing yet. Others have. But Microsoft launched something called Azure. Windows Cloud Edition is my shorthand for it. It means a developer developing a Microsoft set of tools now can develop once and effectively, when it's completely mature, deploy to a cloud-based instance or an on-premise one. I've been prone to call a purist software as a service approach architectural tyranny, which really didn't please Mark Benioff when I was saying that to the CEO of Salesforce.com. There are some applications which people are very happy to consume over the wire. There are others that you have server huggers. They want the application in their shop and they're not willing to let it go. We'll always have server huggers. So what I typically recommend to a CIO is to design a corporate architecture that can cope with some elements in the cloud, some on-premise, maybe some with a partner, but to focus on getting all these things to work together. So there's no point having a bunch of fluffy stuff up in the cloud if it can't work with the stuff that's in the office. And as a CIO, my premise is, it's up to you to define your corporate architecture as to what's in premise and what's in the cloud, not your provider. If you want CRM in your office, it's your choice. It shouldn't be your service provider's choice. If they run their business from a multi-tenanted system or through thousands of individual instances, it's their problem to make it work for you. My phrase to Benioff was, anyone who declares multi-tenancy as a fundamental part of their architecture hasn't listened to their customers, which is an accusation to a CEO of a CRM company. It doesn't go down well. As a buyer, I just want to switch it on and switch it off and have it work. I don't care whether it's single tenancy, multi-tenancy, blue tenancy, or tartan tenancy. I just want it to work. It's my service provider's problem to make it work the way that suits me. So we will see cloud coming hugely into the vocabulary. It will be misused by lots of people. So people selling big clunking mainframes will describe them as cloud servers. People selling storage will describe it as storage on demand, cloud storage. People selling some network equipment will describe it as networks in the cloud. People will sell software as a service as cloud. It's just another deployment architecture, but it will continue throughout this year to be quite a lot of buzz. The areas that I think are going to be hot within it, CRM as a service has continued to grow, not just Salesforce, but if you look at, say, some of the Siebel offerings, I reckon they've grown up to 75% per annum in some of the geographies they've been deployed in. They've done very, very well. The open source versions, like Sugar CRM, I've seen increasing traction around that. Storage in the cloud, yes, that will be there, but planned as part of an integrated storage architecture. Just like you would decide when to have things on tape and when on disk, you would do the same. When can I have things in the cloud, when on-prem, what's my disaster recovery across it? Be an integrated approach to it.